So we are going to start working on our zebras, and one of the first things we're going to think about is that when you're doing your zebra, you want to make sure that your lines are symmetrical. So we're going to start, this one is not done, we're going to start with a drawing and then base coat of watercolor, and once that's dry we'll start to do our stripes. But you'll notice that the zebra's head, if I was to draw a line through the middle, whatever's happening on one side is exactly the same on the other. So you want to keep that symmetrical balance in mind. So the first thing we're going to do is, I'm going to use a pencil just for this step because I will have to erase it. You're going to draw a line that comes down from the top a little bit and just kind of fills out about half the space. And then again, whatever we draw on one side of that line has to be the same on the other. So I'm going to start, and what I'm going to do first is the top of the head. And from that line, I'm just going to come in and kind of do almost like a curve that comes down a little bit and then curves up. And then I want to do another line on this side. Keep it the same. So what I would like to do when I'm drawing this line is make sure it lines up with this one. So if I was to take a ruler and line this up straight, okay, it might look a little crooked in the video. I would want to make sure that this one ends kind of at the same point. So I know I'm going to mark, I know that this should kind of end around here. And I'm just going to eyeball it. It comes in, back out, and then wraps around here. So I might need to, adjust this one, and that's okay. All right, so now that I have that done, I'm gonna just come down a little bit on each side like this for the side of the head. And then now I'm gonna start to angle it in downwards. And I'm trying to keep them symmetrical. So I'm looking at this space from here to here. Now I know that I could probably make adjustments if I was using a pencil. And since I'm using a Sharpie, I'm just gonna keep going with it. Okay. So I'm going to stop that for right now, and I'm going to come up here a little bit, and I'm going to just draw a line that comes across like this in the middle. And then I'm going to have two equal length lines coming down. And then I'm just going to have a diagonal that meets to those two bottom lines. They kind of meet at the same point. Perfect. I'm going to have a line that comes past these. And then I'm gonna come from the middle, do a shorter line, and then I'm gonna come here and meet those. So that's gonna be my nose. I'm then gonna do a curve this way and a curve this way, try to keep them in the same spot. Now I'm gonna do the eye, and the eye is gonna come below the head here. So the eye should be almost about in the middle of the head. So I'm gonna come and I'm gonna do a curve that comes and meets from here to my top of my nose. And I know it looks, again, a little weird. Try to start this one at the same spot. Now that I've drawn this, I can see that this space might be a little wider than this space. So if I had a pencil, I could have gone in and adjusted that. But since I used a Sharpie, once again, I can't do that, but you can. Sometimes drawing more lines helps you compare and see. Now I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna come and do a curve that comes and meets at the bottom to that top curve line. I'm gonna do a circle, but I'm gonna only fill it in a little bit, not all the way. And then just a couple little lashes coming off that. Okay, all right, now I'm gonna do just another line here for the mouth. Okay, and I'm gonna do the ears now. So the ears are gonna kinda come up, curve, and meet back in on each side. Try to keep them symmetrical. So I know this probably could have been a little wider, but that's okay, because you know what, that's perfect actually, because I need to do an outside part of the ear. So you're gonna go ahead and draw just a line on the outside of the ear. And then we're even gonna do a little hair. So the hair is gonna start out kind of like a V, and then you're just gonna do a couple lines coming in from the side like that. Okay, and then now what we're gonna do is the neck of the zebra. So usually the neck kind of starts out right near the bottom of the ear there, the top of the neck, and then the bottom is kind of right about where that edge of that nose is there. And that's gonna kind of come down here and angle down. Okay, so there we go. Now we're gonna build up with a little bit of value and shading. And nobody's two drawings are going to look exactly the same. See my zebras? There are some slight differences, and that's okay. What we're going to do right now is we are going to add some value. You are going to pick one color. You can keep it white and black like a zebra, just build up with some grays right now. It is going to be tricky. You're going to have to keep that black really on the light gray side. I just used blue, but you can use any colors you want. You're just going to stick though with one color for now. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is called a wash, and we're just going to do a nice wash of water. We'll start with the neck. We're going to break this up into sections. So I'm going to go in the neck. Add a little water to the neck first. Outline the area. The background we're not going to worry about because you're actually going to be cutting this out down the road. So we're going to just paint water. What we're going to do is a wet on wet. I'm going to take a little bit of that blue, and I want to make a light value on that blue. So somewhere on a tray, I'll probably come around and give you trays again, or on the palette, just mix a little water. And then we're just going to get the very edge. And if it's looking too light, what you can do is add a little more of whatever color choice you pick. So I picked blue. I'm going to stay with blue the whole time then. And I can build up more of that blue as I think I need to. So we're just going to work on those edges. Now, if I want to spread that out more, because it's a wet on wet, it might already spread itself. But if you need to help it, just get a little bit of water only on your brush and spread that out. The inside of the zebra needs to be very light, a light color. And the reason for that is we're building up with lines later. So this should be a light to medium value. Almost, if it was a real zebra, it would be almost even white. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the whole face with a wash of water. And then we're going to build up with some color. So I'm going to take that light blue, and now that I have that wash, I'm just going to kind of build up with a little bit of that light blue and spread it out. And because I went in with that water first, it's actually going to ensure that my paint is really light. But if you go in and let's say you add a little Ona that's really dark, how can I fix that? Right, I can just get a little water and kind of spread it out, and that will help. So for the nose area, we're going to just paint that a light blue, but now we're going to slowly start to build up with more. So I'm going to add a little more of that blue into my palette to make my color darker. Think of those stripes we did last time. How do we make those stripes darker? And while that nose is still wet in the middle, I'm just going to do a little dotting, a little wet on wet. And then kind of spread that out to make that area darker. And then I'm going to even do a very even darker value by dipping in just the blue on its own. And if I need to spread it out with just water on my brush, I can. All right, so I've got that done. I'm now even going to darken the edge of my eyes. So I'm just going to go at the very edge. Sometimes the watercolor has a mind of its own, and that's okay. That's what's cool about watercolor. All right, so now my hair, I might need to add a little bit more water to that blue now that I've darkened it. I'm gonna go in, what's cool is your water will start to get the color you need to. I'm just gonna add a wash of water first, and then I'm gonna go in, and I'm gonna just maybe darken it a little bit. And I want the middle of my ear to be the darkest. So I'm gonna do wet on wet. I'm gonna just get blue only and kind of dip that in there. And then also I'm going to darken the edge here. So roll that brush around pretty good and just darken the edge. Just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to let this dry. And the reason why I'm letting that dry is because I want to do the stripes, but I want the stripes to just be solid stripes. I do not want them to blend into the paper. So in order to do that, we have to keep it dry. So this one has been drying for a while. So I'm going to take this now, and what I'm going to do is draw some of the zebra stripes. So in the head for the zebra stripes, we want them to be symmetrical. You can have different valued stripes. You can have some darker or lighters. If they're slightly not symmetrical, that's fine. I'm going to get my color blue and I'm going to make it pretty dark. So I'm rolling it around. This is going to be a really dark value. Now, the more you push on your brush, the thicker your line's going to be. So keep that in mind, light pressure. So what I'm gonna do is I am just gonna do kind of like a little V form that comes around and comes down to my nose. And I'm gonna do a few of those. You know, some can be a little looser, more organic than others. Some can be thicker, like I might wanna thicken this one, but then I need to go over and thicken this. I can do some lighter valued stripes. Well, you'll notice because I let that paint dry, it's not gonna blend in. So I'm just kind of going in and I'm doing some different values of that blue. If you want to make a blue darker, you can even go back over it a few times. And I'm making sure whatever I do on one side, I do on the other. So these ones are going to kind of stop near the eye. And then I'm going to do a couple below the eye. So for these ones, they're going to just be some curves that kind of curve like this. Light pressure. Same on both sides. You can even go in and kind of thicken the ends of some of the stripes, because sometimes if they all kind of look the same, it doesn't quite look organic like an actual zebra. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is the stripes in the body. And those you don't have to worry about symmetry. But what I like to do is I like to create some form. So when I do the stripes, I add a little bit of movement. So again, these are kind of darker values. And if there's anywhere too that you really want to darken, like maybe near the nose, you can, now that this is dried, you can build up with some more values too in your nose or anywhere else that you wanted to. Like I might want to go in and kind of darken my ears a little bit more. Now that this is dry and I know this isn't going to blend in, I can even go in and darken that area a little more. Or maybe, you know, under my eyelids. And the thing, so we'll go back to the neck here. The thing with the neck is sometimes the neck ones are a little thicker. So in order to get that line kind of thick, instead of pressing hard, what I'm going to do is press, or instead of pressing light, I apologize. Instead of pressing light, what I'm going to do is press a little harder. And that's going to give me a thicker line. So what we've learned throughout this project is how to practice making values to create shadows and different shades of colors. And also we've been practicing how to hold that paintbrush and create both thick and thin lines. So you're gonna just keep building up with that. You know, if you wanna add more, I might do some lighter valued color lines, just keep it symmetrical. And there you go. So we're gonna cut these out and add them to our backgrounds eventually.